Hello everyone, my name is Kyle from Naples Botanical Garden. I'm going to be showing you guys how to do your own succulent propagation at home. So the tools that we're going to need for this are a pair of scissors, a small jar of ground cinnamon powder, I'll show you what that's for later, and of course a succulent. Succulent propagation, so what we're doing is we are propagating, making more of our plant by just cutting off a part of it, separating it, and planting it on its own. This concept of propagation through cuttings applies not just to succulents, but also to herbs and many other different kinds of plants. We're gonna start off here by taking a look at our plant, and we have to decide where we wanna cut. I usually go at least 6 inches, so when we're cutting, we want to cut above a growth node. A growth node is a section where leaves come out. So if you look on this succulent, which is a really great example, it has a section of stem, and then a section where leaves, and then a section of stem, then a section of leaves. Each one of those points where 2 leaves are coming out, those are a growth node, right? So we want to cut above our growth node. And the reason why we're doing that, the reason why we're not cutting below the growth node, is that if we were to cut below the growth node, we would leave a section of stem on the plant that would not have any new growth coming up out of it. So what would happen there is that that section of stem would rot, and then it would open up our plant to infection. We don't want that, so we want to cut a significant portion of the plant off above a growth node. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to cut right above the growth node. A good section of plant taken off here. Next we have to remove a few different leaves on here. We can't just stick it right in the ground just like this. So I usually like to go halfway up the section of stem and remove all of the leaves and all of the branches that are halfway up that stem. So I'm going to come in here and I'm just going to snip them off with my scissors. You can do them with your fingers if you want, just kind of peeling them off, but there's a risk that you will break the stem if it's too fragile, so you don't want to do that, so I usually just do it with the scissors. So now you can see there are some sections here where these leaves were cut off on these growth nodes, right? Now what's going to happen when we plant this in the ground, and we plant it all the way up to where these leaves are still left on, is that these growth nodes here are going to send out roots instead of leaves. Next we want to use our cinnamon, our ground cinnamon powder, and we're using our cinnamon and just gently applying it to the areas that we cut with my finger. So I just put my finger in the cinnamon powder to get some on, and then I'm just kind of rubbing it in. Cinnamon is a really great antifungal and antibacterial properties to it, so it basically helps protect our plant from being diseased and getting infections. And we also don't want to forget the section on our parent plant that we cut, right? Because that has a wound as well. So then the next thing we want to do is just let it sit. I usually do 2 full days, 2 or 3 full days, but at least 24 hours. It'll give the sections that we cut on here on the plant time to scab over, and that will help it develop some new growth for itself. You could use a succulent soil. They're pretty unpicky about the different soil that they use, so it doesn't really matter which one you were to go with. So in this one, I have to have regular garden soil, and then I have some small pebbles on the top here. So what these pebbles are doing is they're primarily decorative, but it also helps prevent the water from evaporating out of the soil as quickly. The people that I talk to in the garden who come into the garden and they're asking about succulents, I think almost everyone that I talk to waters their succulents too much. If it's outside, this succulent stays outside all the time on the lanai. I usually water it once every 2 to 3 weeks. I really wouldn't go any more frequent than once every 2 weeks, just because past that point, you're really going to start flooding it. These are desert plants. They're used to kind of going through a drought period and not getting as much water. That's why they have very thick leaves, so they can store the water in their leaves and use them for later. So it's okay that it has that kind of infrequent waterings. If I just kept this on my counter, I would go water it once a month. And when you're watering it, you're just either coming in with a hose or a cup or watering pail or whatever. You're watering it until you start to see water come out of the holes of the bottom of the pot. And once water starts to come out, then you know the entire pot has been saturated with water and it's good to go. They're okay with full sun. I wouldn't worry too much about the sunlight, worry more about the watering frequency than anything else, really. Thank you guys for watching this video. Hope you guys learned a bunch about how to propagate succulents, and not just succulents, but other plants out in your garden area. So we hope to see you guys back in the garden pretty soon, so take care.